of all the places in Shadyside, why are you trying to put a cell phone tower in my kid's playground? There's like 1,000 other places you can put a cell phone tower.
This is ground zero for the best possible opportunity to create. I understand, but the point I'm making is this. You're asking why I can't go somewhere else, right? You're asking why can't I go like a mile away or 2 miles away? The answer is this is the best place to fill the hole in the network.
Really? There's really everywhere else in Shadyside. You're trying to tell me everywhere else in Shadyside you can't get more than 200 feet from a building or somebody's property line or whatever. That's what you're trying to tell me?
What I'm saying.
And will you be guaranteed? Will we be guaranteed that the school is the cell tower is safe for us kids, and we won't get some sort of cancer or anything like that? Because I don't want cancer.
That's a great
Can I ask what grade you're in?
What?
What grade are you in?
5th.
You're in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going into
When
5th.
my son was 9 years old, in the 3rd grade, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He went to a school where there was a cell tower within 300 or 400 feet from his elementary school at Forestville Elementary School in Fairfax County. So if there's anyone who can understand your concern, it's me. Because I'm a parent of a child who had cancer and survived cancer. And I can tell you that there is no credible evidence to demonstrate that my son got cancer from that cell tower. Because the reality is that there's no evidence that shows it causes harm. And I wouldn't be the biggest that would cause harm. That in every single lease that we sign with Anne Arundel County Schools, we have a provision in our lease agreement so that if there's ever a risk or it's conclusively proved that wireless energy causes harm, we take action. And we have the same responsibility with our carriers. We take action for that. So that's the number one thing I want you to understand.
Can I say something to that? To be respectful? That says that if it's proven that it causes cancer, which it likely will in time, causes harm, that then you would take the tower down or make it be below whatever the new number is. This does not address the risk from all the years of exposure. Are you addressing that? Because wait, I want to say one other thing.
Right.
As far as I understand, insurance companies don't insure for low-level electromagnetic fields. They group it as a pollutant. You have to buy special insurance if you want coverage for low-level radio frequency radiation. Do you have that insurance?
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned electromagnetic radiation because it's really de minimis. And as you may know, that to power a tower, it's the same electrical service as a single-family home. So the amount of electrical energy that's required to power our tower is very, very low. Each of the antenna panels, 30 watts, maybe 50 watts. So it's very, very low energy from each of our antenna installations. But I think with request to your question, which is the issue associated with harm, we have provisions in our agreement that if it's demonstrated by the government that it causes harm, we have to respond. And that's in every single agreement we've ever signed with the municipality. That if it's proven by the government that it causes harm, we have to act. And so that's the fail-safe with respect to this issue that you're concerned about.
Thank you.
Can we get the environment? Because more people now connect to the internet through their wireless device than to computers sitting at their desktops. And people want their phones to work. And in fact, when you look at order of priority, it's ranked, having good wireless connectivity in your community is considered one of the top 4 things people look for when they're looking at becoming part of a community.
How much money is Verizon going to make off of this?
Money or the kid?
So the question you're asking is how much money do we make from building a cell tower on the site?
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I'm a business person. This is my livelihood. This is how I support my family. This is how Matt supports his family. All the people that work in our team. This is how the wireless industry provides the resources. We believe that infrastructure for wireless makes life better for people.
We're looking for any way we can earn money to benefit the school. And this happens to be an avenue. The Board of Education has approved it, and we are basically implementing what they execute. They don't vote on it. It's a review item. They voted for the master lease agreement. It's a review item. It's heard.
And Montgomery County and Prince George's County have put the restriction in for elementary school. So why is Anne Arundel County, again, this was already brought up, but why? Elementary school.
It's a great location because we can minimize the visual impact because we placed it in the center of a forested area away from the fall zone of the tower and has very little visual impact. There's benefits to the school, and why shouldn't there be benefits to the school? Why shouldn't the schools have the opportunity to be able to drive benefit like the other 5 towers? And the safety of our children is the most, nothing comes second, nothing comes above that. And so the safety of our children, and so the answer to the question is there are studies done, there have been studies done over 30 or more years. And all these studies have been evaluated by the scientific community, and there is no credible evidence from the organizations who I put my faith in, like the American Cancer Society, the National Cancer Institute, the FDA, the FCC. There is no credible evidence that shows that that this causes harm. And so the World Health Organization, made a statement that radio energy is a possible type 2 carcinogen, like coffee and sunlight. So the reality is, possible type 2 carcinogen, I don't know what that means, but all I can say is that there's no credible evidence that proves that this causes harm.
Equipment, you could have put a picture of a cell phone tower and showed us exactly what it would look like to it and sold it to people that shit. And it's not going to work out. The 25 grand that you spend a year in there, 10 years, you could have bought a piece of property and put it out of the way and got it out of our way. If cell phones aren't banned and if the signal's not banned on it, why can't you use a cell phone at the gas pump when you're pumping gas? Okay, you're going to come up with the RF stuff and sell these people this stuff, but it's not proven. Every one of the Highline towers, people's property values, devalues, and ours is going to value and they're right across from this. You say inside the building, the school kids aren't a problem. What about outside in the playground? That's about all I got, because I can't talk.
Radio frequency energy from our cell towers is the same as the radio frequency energy from our phones. It's the same as the radio frequency energy from our Wi-Fi routers, cordless phones, and baby monitors. It's all the same form of radio energy. And the amount of radio energy generated from our facilities is de minimis. In fact, it's so small that it takes very expensive equipment just to measure it accurately. What people have constructive ideas on moving the tower to another location on the site or off the site, but the bottom line is this. Verizon, we listen to Verizon. They have very specific criteria as to where they want service to be provided. This is the location Verizon has told us is optimal for their network, and that's, I wish I could answer. I apologize that I can't go more into more detail, but that's really all I've got. That's all I've got.
It's an optimal from a technological and
Well, so these guys are making a capital investment. They have to get a return on their investment because they're spending a lot of resources, making a long-term commitment, and so it's really in their ballpark to determine what happens next.
All right. But I'm a scientist. I'm a biologist. Is the school board going to be considering, in doing the process of consideration, are they going to be consulting with pediatricians, doctors, and members of the health community instead of just the engineers that are going to tell you this is what's the best situation?
We've looked over all the credible studies, and the board has looked over those studies. And basically all the information we have read, we feel there are not any concerns.
No
One of
concern?
the things with the RF energy is it's like 1,000 times less.
No concerns?
And the other thing, let's take Broadneck High School, for example. It's our oldest tower, again, three years old. They went out there and did a study. It's located behind the stadium. And they actually went out and did measurements. As they went across the field, again, it was way below the FCC requirements. But as they got actually inside, all the way across the other side of the school, inside by the science lab, the RF energy was higher. And it was because of the Wi-Fi routers in the school. They were picking up the RF energy inside the school was higher inside than it was outside, right next to the tower. And I'm just telling you, that was the findings that they found. And again, I look.
Shame on the school board for voting to approve it before the public meeting. Shame on the school board for voting for a 5-year renewal contract before any renegotiation or public input. Shame on the school board for that. Shame for not renegotiating to hold so that Milestone is not held harmless. Shame on them. Shame on Mike Miller for taking Milestone money. Shame on Mike Bush for taking Milestone money. Democracy works when we have input to the people that we elect.
There is no doubt that consumers are confused. There are conflicting reports. There is a lot of scientific information out there. It gets some press coverage, but then it gets countered by industry. I am embarrassed to say that I believe my industry is on a campaign to bury the science and to confuse the message on the harmful effects of wireless devices.
A major U.S. government study on rats finds a link between cell phones and cancer, an explosive development in the long-running debate over the health effects of mobile phones. Here with more details is Wall Street Journal reporter Ryan Knutson. Ryan, thanks so much for being with us. Now, this $25 million study is the largest and most comprehensive study that's ever been done on cell phones and health effects, correct?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest studies that the U.S. government has ever done on this topic. It's probably the biggest study that the National Toxicology Program has ever done on anything. This has been such a debated thing over the years that when the government set out to do this, they really wanted to design a study that would try to not put the issue to rest, but really be the most comprehensive experiment.
Get to the bottom of it. And how was it conducted exactly?
They put mice and rats into these specially designed chambers where they could expose them at different intervals of RF energy, which is the kind of energy that comes off of cell phones.
On the left, this is a picture of the empty chamber. These are the paddles that I talked about. This is the vertical paddle. This would spin during exposure. This is a horizontal paddle. This would also spin during exposure. And this creates that homogeneous environment within the chamber.
And then they found a link to two types of tumors?
Right, gliomas and schwannomas. And those are associated with other types of tumors that have been found in other epidemiological studies in the past. So
were these brain tumors or tumors in other parts of the body?
So we concluded from this data that the hyperplastic lesions and the glial cell neoplasms of the heart and the brain observed in the rats are considered likely the result of exposure to whole body GSM or CDMA modulated radiofrequency radiation. There is higher confidence in the results that we observed in the heart than what we observed in the brain.
Majority of the people that look at this data set say it's more likely that it is related, that these, certainly the schwannomas, and we have less confidence in the gliomas, they are related to radiofrequency radiation more so than they're not related to radiofrequency radiation. So that's sort of the line at which we've come down on.
There's 100 studies that you've looked over and been a part of that say that this is doing us great harm.
There's always an ongoing debate about is there enough science to defend, and there's reports that say we need more studies, we need more evidence. So we put a research team together and came back and identified over 130 studies that Health Canada has not taken into account in the last update of the safety guidelines.
So
the spectrum of electromagnetic radiation ranges from ionizing radiation, like X-rays, which have enough energy to knock electrons out of their orbit and cause cancer, to non-ionizing radiation, like microwaves, which have much less energy and considered to be safer. Mobile phones, tablets, phone towers, smart meters, baby monitors, and Wi-Fi routers are all sources of radio frequency microwave radiation.
So I mentioned that this is a group 2B or possible human carcinogen. This has been belittled many times, and certainly a lot of people are saying, but the risk isn't nearly as serious as with X-rays or smoking. Well, this is the COMET assay that looks at DNA damage, and you can assess quantitatively damage by looking at the length and density of the comet-like tail there. On the left, you'll see that sham where there is no toxic exposure, that's healthy DNA. In the middle, that's gamma irradiation, equivalent to about 1,600 chest X-rays, so alarming, possibly carcinogenic doses. And you compare that with just 24 hours of mobile phone radiation below current allowable guidelines. You can see that actually that looks extremely comparable.
To clarify that, we did a study in mice where we randomized the mice during pregnancy to be exposed to cell phone radiation. Nothing different at all about these mice, and the cell phones were muted so that the mice wouldn't even know if the cell phone was turned on or not. So the mice were randomized during pregnancy to have the cell phone on top of their cage, and this was done throughout their pregnancy. And then we let them give birth, turned off the cell phone, and evaluated them with various behavioral tests as adult mice. What we found is that there were significant differences in these mice. The mice were hyperactive, their memory was decreased, and they had decreased anxiety. So they weren't paying attention to their surroundings. They were very active, hyperactive.
We're not making this up, and I want to be very clear. Industry has not said once that cell phones are safe. The federal government, the various interagency working groups have all said it's safe.
But when you add the animal study from the National Toxicology Program, the combined evidence, in my view, is that there is now sufficient evidence that radiofrequency radiation is carcinogenic to humans. That's IARC Category 1, and you can't ignore that. And the implications of this, we have to be cautious. Radiofrequency radiation is now ubiquitous. We're probably exposed to it in this room, even though we do not want to be.
But these radio waves can pass through soft flesh. These radio waves can pass through water. Okay. Your body is 70% water. Water, yes. Okay. These waves in nature are very close to microwaves. Okay. So when these waves are constantly around us, and we are now going to have more and more radiation around us as the antennas around our houses increase, as our cell phone usage increases, as we keep it here, all your soft tissue is all the time, these waves are either passing through, this is an open air microwave. This is not in a box, it's open air, so there's a lot more space. But the fact is that these waves are constantly going past you, past your cells.
Has packed the LA County Board of Supervisors meeting today to protest giant cell towers at their stations. CBS 2's Dave Lopez shows us why they have serious concerns.
This is a step in the right direction, not only for the firefighters and the firefighter safety, but for the citizens we serve.
The problem is that wireless uses microwaves, and that when you microwave people, over time they get sick.
Gelati. My name is Dave Gelati. I'm the president of the LA County Firefighters Union, Local 1014. But more importantly, realize I'm also a 25-year veteran fire captain. I've been a paramedic and engineer. I work at Fire Station 16. We're outside of my kitchen window. I can now throw a stone to a 70-foot tower that is closer to the two-story apartment building with some of the low-income kids that we mentor at our station who've not had a voice in this. And I stand allied with not only the residents that we serve at my fire station, but with community members who are here today. And I want to cut to it. I have never felt like going out and buying a pack of cigarettes more than right now and getting my smoke on, because everything's going to just be okay, isn't it? There is no scientific data correlating smoking of cigarettes and cancer. Wait, there is no scientific data correlating cancer and firefighters going into smoke-filled environments. I've been through Senate and Assembly hearings making testimony to this fact, only to hear things like that brought up like we heard here today. It's ridiculous. This is a 20-year-old standard they're recurringly going back to, which is not even a safety standard. There's no health and safety people involved in this FCC standard. It's 20 years old, people. It's time to get current. Also, this is about transparency and accountability. This is the same LA RICS board that couldn't get through a bid process twice, has been through all kinds of mire and chaos, and they're asking you to allow them to enter into an agreement where the acting interim CEO can make decisions for you. I wouldn't want to turn over my power as a Board of Supervisor representing my constituents to anybody at this point other than yourselves, and represent the people in your districts. And last time I checked, firefighters weighing in, who dorm and live, we are not transient employees, at the fire stations. When did we stop mattering as far as input goes from people and as stakeholders for what the impact is going to be of these towers? I don't understand when that happened. So I think the citizens are here to be with us, but we're here as usual to be with them. This is quite simple. Slow down, halt.
Conclusion according to these Hill criteria would even be that this causes brain cancer. And the next question is, of course, if you have a situation that you have a cancer-causing agent, what should you do? Is it free to expose the population to this or not? I mean, if we take asbestos, you wouldn't dream to build a school with asbestos because you know that it gives lung cancer. You wouldn't dream to say to the teacher or the children, it's okay for you to smoke to the lessons, because there are no studies on school situation and if the teacher is smoking. So we have to use, and the risk for cancer, so we have to use analogy, what's found in the literature of adverse health effects, and from that we must take conclusions, and I would concur with Darius that then we need to use the precautionary principle and not expose the children